a typical day in the garden is starting up here in our upper beds. We've got a Mittleider system where we've got 18 inches by 30 feet long. So we planted about 200 tomatoes this year. And we basically just go through every day and we're looking at any kind of suckers. We're picking off any tomatoes that have bottom rot. We're picking any tomatoes that are ready and ripe. One of the unfortunate events of moving to Arkansas the time of year we did is we got a really late start in the gardening system. And so most of our friends that homestead here, they've already been picking tomatoes and picking vegetables, and they're already starting to share with us because we're not really getting much of a crop right now. We're learning things about the Mittleider system. We've never done that before. I've gardened before on and off the last 18 years. This is my husband's first year of gardening, so he's pretty new to this, so it's been really fun and exciting for him. I'm hoping to get enough tomatoes to make salsa this year and see how that goes. From years past, our friends say that it's been a lot more rain, so we've been having not as much rain. So usually we come out, we're picking stuff, we're weed whacking stuff, we're, like I said, getting all the bugs off of everything. We're checking for any kind of damage from caterpillars. That's been a serious issue. And actually today we've got a lot bigger harvest than we have been having. One problem we've been having is rot bottom on the tomatoes, and so we've probably thrown out about 200 to 300 tomatoes. So that's been really difficult and hard to deal with this year, but we're trying to figure out what we're missing in the soil. We bought 16 acres, and so we're starting from scratch. The soil here is clay. Josiah, you'll show down here. Basically everything is just clay and rocks. And so when we got here, we realized that this first year we just weren't going to be able to till up the soil and add all the compost and all the nutrients that we were going to need to add. And even though we want to do permaculture, we realized that permaculture takes 5 years minimum to get ready. And we needed to be able to have a harvest really quickly. Our family, we're half vegetarian, half vegan family, and we live about 20 minutes from town. We live about an hour from the nearest health food store. And so we just couldn't be driving to the store every single week to buy groceries. And I was spending about $250 a week at Whole Foods just buying produce for our family of 9. And so the garden this year was super, super important to be able to get it up, get it running, get it moving really, really fast. And so that's why we chose the Mittleider system for some of the things that we were going to do. And I can talk more about that later. Mittleider's new. We've never done Mittleider before, but you bring in a sawdust sand mixture and then you just feed the nutrients to it. And it's kind of like a raised bed system. So you can get up and moving and you can start food really, really fast. So that's what we decided to do in this upper garden. So we planted tomatoes. We planted about 200 tomatoes, 100 bell pepper plants. And then here at the end, we just ended up with this extra space, and so I thought, what are we going to fill it with? So I just threw in some old bean seeds that we had, and we're starting to get green beans now, which, you know, all of our friends have been getting green beans for about 3 weeks, I think. We have these beetles that have invaded us and are attacking, so we're dealing with that with the soap and neem mixture of water. The green beans aren't as tasty as I had hoped that they would be. And so we're just kind of letting these go right now, but we'll kind of see how that ends up working out. The tomatoes, you know, the harvest is coming in. The bell peppers, I've probably harvested about 15 pounds of bell peppers so far. So I've been canning dried beans with peppers and onions and garlics this last week and using up all the bell peppers. We have 3 areas of garden. I just showed you the upper garden where the tomatoes and the peppers and a few bean plants are growing. And then down in this area we have Mittleider system also going on. Like I said, the soil is super rocky. It's full of clay. There's not really anything you can do. Our neighbors that live down the road a mile, they're on their 3rd year of gardening, and this year they said is their best year yet. So we knew really quickly that we had to get food really, really fast, like I had said. So right here, the first set of this bed, it's basically 18 inches by 30 feet long. And I planted multiple squash this year just because I wanted to try out which squash we liked, what squash we didn't like. I was trying to venture out into something new. This is from Rare Seeds, and I think it's called Mongo Gongo, which I know sounds crazy, but it's it can be used as a summer squash and a winter squash, but I'd have to double check on that. My younger kids pulled out all of my tags for identifying all my plants. And then down here a little bit farther, I've got the Burgess winter squash, and like this one right here is looking yellow, so I would just pinch this off right now and just kind of toss it to the side. But everything's growing vertical, so there's plenty of air in between all the plants, and we're able to harvest things and grab things really. And over here on the other side, I've got a bunch of different pole beans growing. I've got Good Mother Stallard, cow peas, and then over here we've got 4 more beds. And we've been really battling the squash bugs. We've had major issues with the hot peppers going this year. Some of the peppers seem to be doing better than others. It looks like, I'm thinking we didn't water it enough because of the lack of rain. I've got some issues with leaves falling off. We're just not used to this heat. Our climate back where we came from was 60 degrees, 70 degrees all year round. Here I've got a bunch of melon plants that are starting to take off, and what I'm going to do is just let them produce a few melons each, and then I'll just snip off the ends of the vines and just kind of stop that from growing. Over here, this really sad wilty plant yesterday when I was in the garden looked amazing and beautiful, but I'm guessing this wilt is from squash bugs. But then right next to it, this plant is looking really good, and is having a lot of blooms and a lot of flowers. So it's been really hard to stay on top of all the bugs. When you're starting a garden from scratch, you've got to be building the beds, you've got to be putting everything in quickly, watering everything, putting in watering systems, and then at the same time doing what every other gardener is doing, maintaining the weeds, maintaining the bugs, maintaining the climate, and so that's been kind of hard. So over here we had, when we bought the property, the owner had loaned a piece of his property for having a bunch of straw bales. And they were the big, huge, round straw bales. And we were kind of excited about that because we knew that underneath the bales it would have rotted and created probably a richer soil than the clay rock soil that we have here in Northwest Arkansas. So this part of the garden we were real excited about. We realized we wouldn't have to try a Mittleider system. We weren't going to have to introduce a lot of nutrients or things, that if we spread out the bales, we could just kind of go for it. So right here we just started making beds, and we decided to start this off as one of our perennial gardens and plant asparagus. You're not supposed to plant them or pick them to eat until the stalks are about the size of a pencil. And so right here you can see we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 stalks just from this one crown, and it's going to flower, which it's doing right now, and then next year hopefully we'll actually have a crop. In the middle of July right now, and I've just been picking beets as we come out here. I've just been making beet kvass, so this little guy's small, so we can just eat his greens tonight. And I've just been chopping up and fermenting all of the beets. These are the sun-dried tomatoes that they use over in Italy and that they sell. And just in the last, I was out here I think 2 days ago, and I picked maybe 3 ripe tomatoes. So when they start to produce really quickly, they really produce quickly, I'm seeing. So I'll put these in my dehydrator. I have an electric dehydrator, and I'll dehydrate all of these and just slice them in half and just dehydrate them and use them later on pizzas and things like that. Here I planted tomatillos, and right here on the edges, something is eating the edges right here. Something bit the edges right here. So I'm thinking something big, probably a deer, jumped over my electric fence and is nipping at the ends of my tomatillos. But the tomatillos are doing amazing in the Arkansas weather. I came out and picked a bunch and made some salsa. This is borage, and it's edible, and you can use it for teas. They use borage seed oil for women for their monthly cycles, and this is a really good edible, and you can eat the flowers. They kind of taste like cucumber. The kids love to come out and eat these. Yeah, it tastes like cucumber. The leaves are really prickly, but I dehydrated a bunch of these to do for tea later. I have lemon thyme. My daughter put a couple of green onions as an experiment from chopping them off from the grocery store. More parsley, more oregano, more of the poke weed, the poke root. It's everywhere. Another thyme. Oh, here's another weed. But this is the sheep sorrel. Ooh, it's tart. So that's yummy. Naomi, my daughter, she planted some strawberries in here, but they're not really taking. So here my daughter planted some strawberry plants and some strawberry crowns. We've got more of the sheep sorrel that's just growing here wild. And then there's this plant right here. As I look at it, it's got veins going this way, which makes me think that it's plantain. And the seeds are similar to plantain. Plantain shoots up a seed pod kind of similar to this, but it's fuzzy, so it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. So I'm not really sure about that. So I've got to hit the books and figure out if this is an important plant or if it's something that I should just pull. And then back behind us here are just all these elderberry. We had a friend come in. He completely just took his tractor and mowed everything down because we didn't know what was in here. And then all of these elderberries just came back in, and we've got another elderberry patch that's about, I would guess, maybe 50 trees. Well, they're really shrubs, and they're just loaded with elderberries this year. And that's why we thought, you know, when we start selling at farmers markets, it's got to be Elderberry Farm because we've been blessed with so many elderberries. We've got to get. This whole area was just filled with trees and weeds, and it was so overwhelming when we first got here. I was kind of scared when my husband said we could pull it off. And this year's been really fast and really great. We've had some friends come over and help us. We're loving the community that we live in. We're feeling so blessed and so happy that we've moved here, that we decided to make this our permanent home.